Let's use if statements to filter out a division by 0. And then we will modify the program and use exceptions to handle the division by 0. So let's start with the first part. So let's say we want the user to enter two numbers. We're going to divide one by the other. So let's call num1 equals, and it will be a float value, and we will ask the user to input the numerator, for example. So we have a fraction, and that will handle the fraction. And then num2 will be for the denominator part of the fraction. And notice float means it's a real number, which means it has a decimal point, and you could set the precision. And this will be enter the denominator. There you go. All right, so let's see now what happens if you want to divide num1 by num2. Okay, simply if you said something like this, result equals num1 divided by num2. And then, num2. And then you went ahead and printed the result, right? So no if statement, no filtering, no trapping errors or anything like that. So you went ahead and said result equals, and then we'll put the second argument to the print statement with result. Now, let's go ahead and run this program. This will be just fine. So if you put a 2 for the numerator, let's say 22, and we'll want to divide it by 11. And the result will be 2.0. Again, it's a float value. Let's run this program again. And let's say this time again, I have 22 for the numerator, and I'm going to put 0 for the denominator. Now, notice what happens when I hit enter. I get an error. This is a runtime error. And that is because we're trying to divide by 0. We can try to avoid that with an if statement. So for example, to do that, probably place an if statement here. If num2 is not equal to 0, then let me go ahead and tab these. And the reason is now they belong to the true part of this if statement. And let's put an else here and print an error message. Maybe something like this. Can't divide by 0. And let's put an E here for divide. All right, so let's run this program here. So let's go ahead and run it. And again, I'm going to enter 22, and I'm trying to put the 0 in the denominator. Notice it catches it, so no problem. The if statement produces a false as num2 is equal to 0, which means in that case, we're going to run the block under the else, and you get the print statement, can't divide by 0. Will it work if it's non-zero? Absolutely. So if we go ahead and do a 22 divided by 3, as you can see, we get a result, no problem. Now, is there a better way to handle the error, an error of this nature? The answer is yes. And so let me go ahead and clean up this program here. Let me just copy these two, because I'm going to need them, and take these out. I just want to make sure that I have them. Yep, I do. Okay, and I'm going to try them. So I'm going to create what we call a try block. And in them, I'm going to try these two. Okay, now when you notice the little red squiggly line means that this statement is incomplete. You need more to complete this. So let me show you. Let me jump ahead and show you what you can do here to remove that squiggly line. You keep working. Just show you, if you click here on the error and it will tell you finally expected. So the keyword is finally here, needs to be in there. And then you can do something like this. Print, for example, done. Okay, the operation is done. So as you can see here, this will work the way it is. So if I hit enter, run, it's going to ask for one number and then the second number, and you'll get it done. So it's basically trying that block of code, and it will display done no matter what happens in the try block. Aha, so what could happen in the try block? Well, you could have a division by 0. So like, for example, let's say we have a result equals num1 divided by num2. And then we want to print the result. Print result. So very similar to the previous program, except we don't need an if statement here. And this isn't finished yet, so let me go ahead and put result. This will still yield lead to a problem. So if I try to run this, and I actually put 0 for num2, I will get a runtime error. So let me run it. And let's say we want to divide 1 by 0. You will see I will get an error. Okay? But done will run no matter what. Notice here, done will run, okay, even though I try to divide by 0. And here you could see that this was a float division by 0. So what do? We create what we call an exception. Right before finally, except, and then we can decide, this is when there is an error, instead of crashing while the program is running, it will not run what it detects as an error. But you could put something under except. What do you want? Now, notice you have to do something because now the squiggly line is under finally. So I have a statement missing here. You could put anything you want. So for example, print error can't divide by 0. All right, so this is a good place under the exception what to do with the division. Okay, now let's go ahead and run this, and let's go ahead and say we want to divide 23 by 4. Okay, well that's a legitimate division. Notice we get 5.75 and done. So the statement under the except did not run, which is fine because we didn't have any issue in the try block. Now let's go ahead and run it again and create a problem within the try block. Try block means this block of code within the try, okay? And this time I'm going to put 6.1 and I'm going to try to divide by 0. Now watch what happens. The program does not crash. And I get the error message under the except to print out on the screen. Can't divide by 0. And finally, also prints whatever you want done. Now, finally here, let's say I take it out. In this case, it's still, if you had a try with finally, you're good without an except. But if you have a try and an except, finally is optional. So let's try that, same thing. And you could see here, let's divide 1 by 1. You could see I get a result of 1. Let's divide 1 by 0 and see what happens. So I'm going to go ahead and run 1 and 0, and you get an error. No problems, except you don't get done. Finally is a catch-all. When you're done, you could print and continue with your program from that point. So try except finally. Remember these, okay? And I will see you for the next level.